ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, Quinn, at least it's how I'm known here on the program, and at this point, literally nowhere else. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All It Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I'm back here with one more hair episode. After this, all the hair episodes will be out. That is to say, episodes that I recorded with long hair. It actually looks pretty long and flowing in this episode, so I don't mind it too much. But yeah, then you'll never see the long hair again. Thank God. And I get to welcome my friend Hobo Houston of Houston and the Dirty Rats. Also a solo artist, tremendous, just troubadour who has been all over the place. He once performed 100 plus shows in 100 days across North America. And he's going to tell us all about that, his aspirations to become an author, and way, way more. We recorded this right before the holidays, so a couple of the dates might be a little outdated, but nonetheless, it is a great conversation with Houston. I've known this guy for a long time, since the Lehigh Valley Underground days, and this is his debut on the Quinn Spinn, and it's coming at you right now. All right, everyone, we are here on the Quinn Spinn. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I have the pleasure of being joined for the first time on the show by somebody I've actually known for a long time, Hobo Houston, the frontman, founder of Houston and the Dirty Rats, high-energy punk band with an extensive touring history, which we're going to talk all about. And speaking of live performances, they're releasing a live record, live from the Peaburg Legion, which was a show that they played in celebration of their 10th anniversary as a band last year. That'll be out in January. But Houston, first of all, thank you for coming on the show.
No, thank you so much for having me, Gerard. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. Glad we finally get to do this, and a lot to cover here today. But before we get to it, I'm going to ask you the three standard questions. Those three questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
So I'm Hobo Houston, and I'm a folk singer, rock and roll troubadour. I've had like a punk rock band going a little bit more in a rock direction, I guess. And I guess I'm on here to talk about my band coming out with a live record, as you talked about. We're known for our live show and performing live for a long time, so we thought, why not just make it a record?
Yep, bringing that experience to the people, and they can get that experience anywhere they are, whether or not you're coming through their town, which you've come through a lot of towns and a lot of states and a lot of countries over the years. And of course, we're going to...
It's true.
But we get to give people the experience, anywhere they are in the world, which is great. But before we get to the live record, I want to talk about the history of the band here and give you a chance to go back as far back as you want to go. If you want to go all the way back to the beginning, what were some of the formative experiences that brought Houston and the Dirty Rats together? And how did life and music inspire you on the creative path that you've been on?
So I guess the formative experience is very organic in the old-fashioned sense, because I started the band with my brother, and I had wanted to always start a band, with the best musicians I could find. But a lot of times there'd be conflict of interests, and we were all teenagers and stuff at that point. And I just wanted a band that just did the band thing, played gigs, wrote songs, eventually would tour. And it finally got down to, it was just my brother and I. He was like, how about you teach me how to play something? And so I taught him to play drums, and then we kind of took that. We were just a garage band. And then my bass player, Gerard, he lived a few streets down, and after like 7 or so bass players, we had Gerard playing bass, and that was like the core foundation of the Dirty Rats. And my brother was in the band for 6 years. He's a U.S. Marine now. Mm-hmm. And in those amazing 6 years, which happened to be right before the pandemic, so it kind of worked out. We did a whole lot of things, and I felt it was having that core base that really gave the band its continued longevity is that it was just kind of about just the organic grassroots feel. It wasn't so much just about chasing success or trying to reinvent any wheel. Just pretty much go out there and do the thing. Just be a band, meet people, travel.
Yeah. And you've done a lot of that, certainly over the years, especially there was a stretch from 2017 through 2019. Of course, 2019 being the 100 shows in 100 days, where you guys were on the road constantly. It seemed like you guys were like constantly out there, across North America, went to Europe at one point. And I want to know how that got started. Like, so what inspired you guys to go out on the road and start meeting all these people and create all these experiences, hundreds upon hundreds, now upwards of 1,000 shows that you've performed as a band. So, how did you get started on the road, and then how did that kind of take hold to where you stayed out on the road for those years?
It definitely wasn't easy at first. There was a lot of nights sleeping in the van and and hoping that we could find a place to crash. And then eventually we kind of built this whole network of people that would just we'd survive on the kindness of others. We'd have a lot of people that would give us home cooked meals across the country and even globally at this point, which is incredible. That's kind of what I liked about the whole DIY punk rock, I guess, ethos or mythos. I don't know the exact word, but
Mm.
uh, that whole like ethic of it's kind of like I said earlier that I'm a folk singer in many regards, and I just love distorted guitars and rock and roll. And when you look at the 1960s folk scene, my father, when I was doing the whole punk rock thing, he always would compare the two, where it was all about just people looking out for one another. And once I kind of sunk my teeth into it, it was kind of hard to stop because it started to almost be like a game to see how far could we go, or I think I know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that knows that place, and here we are in Saskatchewan, Canada, or in Matamoros, or Germany, all 50 states. I had some buddies go to Alaska, and then I reached out and asked who they talked to, and next thing I know, I'm in Alaska, making it work out. And it was really beautiful the way everything unfolded. I'm slowly chipping away at a book that I eventually want to put out about how to just start a band, buy a van, and conquer the world. I feel nowadays there's so many ways that you can reach people digitally, but there is something amazing about maybe once you build this audience online that there's a lot of questions that can be answered by, like, sometimes you just got to call a bar.
Mhm.
If you can guarantee an audience, you can do it. I did that when I did the 100 shows thing. Sometimes it'd be like, I've never been to Sioux City, Iowa. I'm gonna call this bar. It looks like it's the spot, and then they'll tell you, like, maybe talk to this guy. And I don't know. It was really neat. How like I said, the flower just slowly blossomed, and
Yeah.
here I am today.
Yeah. I want to read the book and definitely want to have you back when the book is finished, by the way, because that's going to be a compelling read, I'm sure. I want to know too, as
Yeah,
far,
I'm hoping.
oh, go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead.
next couple years, hopefully I'll have that together.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the most important lessons that you learned from the 100 shows in the 100 days? Because that is, it sounds like quite a feat, before you even hit the road, just to like get out there. You're playing a show every night, you're in a different city, you might be in a different country, right? But once you got out there, like what did you find and what were some of the most important takeaways that inform your process, as far as touring, as far as performing live, connecting with people going forward?
I think the coolest thing about the 100 shows was that it's the whole thing where a lot of times people say that old saying, don't mix business with pleasure. And many times as a musician, you you love to share your art with the audience, and you love to resonate with them and share your art. You're singing a song and they're feeling the energy, and it's a beautiful experience. But many times when you're on the road, it becomes job in many regards. And I felt that the 100 shows was very much a learning experience in, I guess, the career path of being a musician. Because my father, when I was growing up, my father was a circus clown. And I tried to put, I guess, a little bit of the circus ethics into rock and roll. And the circus goes town to town, and it's just gig after gig after gig. And we kind of it started as a joke in many regards. I've talked about it in the past about how my brother, who was playing drums at the time, my brother, he kept saying how, 2019, 100 shows, 100 days. And I was like, yeah, 2019, 100 shows, 100 days. And I booked him. I made it happen, and it was pretty cool because, like I talked about a few minutes ago, about the whole network and community of the alternative, like punk rock music. Once people saw the tour poster, and I reached out to them, they all wanted to be a part of it. It was like, oh, I want to be on board. I normally don't book a Wednesday, but I'll book a Wednesday or a Tuesday. And it was a really interesting experience, because every day, I'd have to wake up and go to another town. And I feel like it prepared me for whatever the future holds. Even some of the tours I've done post-pandemic were still pretty massive, where we'd go out for 3 months and maybe we're playing 5, 6 shows a week at times. And with the current lineup I have in the band, we always like to say that we're ready for anything, because Gerard, I've known him since he was 10 years old, and he's been playing bass in the band for like almost, I think, 10 years now. Because the band, we had our 10-year anniversary last year. I know we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But, it's a good core foundation, and we learn so much about traveling and living on the road. And yeah, I guess I'm ready for whatever the future holds as it unfolds.
Mhm. And of course, we're going to talk more about the future. But another fun fact I want to just note about the 100 shows in 100 days, this was a Guinness World Record attempt too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a Guinness record attempt. Uh, I'm still, I guess, to use a popular term, still a little salty, maybe about how things unfolded, because I believe that Jackal, the band, the hard rock heavy metal band,
Hmm.
they have the Guinness record for, I think it's 100 shows in 100 days or less than 100 shows, and I think someone even just beat them recently. But more of the story is Jackal did it with booking agents and jets and planes and proper promotion and like a whole PR staff. We were just three guys in a van, just with a dream and a notebook and a map, you know.
Mhm.
And I thought that maybe that would get us some type of DIY or alternative thing. I was still it's still a little gray, they asked me for some money because that's how the world works. And I think maybe I paid a little bit of money. I could have got a certain amount of credibility, but it doesn't matter. It's about the experience, about all the incredible individuals that got behind my little band from a small little northwestern New Jersey town and made it happen. And we played, I think it ended up, I don't remember the exact number now, but it ended up being like 92 shows. Or what was it? It was like, or no, it was 101 shows in like 92 days. There we go. So it was 100 shows. So it was like a little over. And no, it was just an incredible experience to say the least.
Absolutely. And it sounds like in addition to writing a book, there might be a screenplay, attached to the to the experience too. Like, you do something like that and it's like it's once in a lifetime. It's unlike any other tour, And of course, like you said, you've done tours before, you've done tours since, but like there's just something about that and seeing that come together, seeing this community come together internationally. And, that's something I've had a chance to find too, especially over the past year going and doing these conferences, these festivals, is like we're all connected through this medium that is music, and a lot of us, industry wise, are having the same conversations, as far as like how do we give the creators the power back? How do we really take this industry back for the people who are making the art? And it's inspiring to see that take place in so many different corners of North America, in my case, over the past year, where, so many people are having the same conversations and trying to come up with similar solutions. And it's this thing that bonds us, it galvanizes us to create better ways forward, for not only the people within our ecosystem, but those who want to step into it after, So where do you feel that, the 100 shows in 100 days, the lessons that you've learned can pass some of that along to your contemporaries, but also anybody else who wants to get in a van and go and do the thing and live that dream?
Um, I definitely agree with what you were saying about how music is the universal language. And I think that the main thing that I always try to share whenever I'm on stage and talk to people, like one of the closing songs we've had for a long time is a song I actually wrote when I was about 14 years old. And it's gone through a lot of changes over the years, but the main message was there. It was about I was just this kid that didn't fit in. The chorus is like, I'm a loner and I don't need anybody else. And the irony, though, is that now I feel I sing that song and it's everybody in the audience. We all were misfits and didn't fit in. And we felt like we didn't have anyone else. But then you find, you know, the underground community or people that support your art. And then you're no longer alone. And it's a beautiful thing. And I really, like I said, I think that's really how everything kind of came together with the 100 shows. And when I reflect on it, I think it definitely it showed me. So I have a friend in upstate New York. He plays in a band called from Buffalo, New York, called On the Cinder. And my friend Jay, he's like a recording engineer. And I met Jay when I was in my early 20s. He's about like 5, 6 years older than me. And Jay kind of showed me a lot of a template of like the DIY ethics and what was possible in the scene. He ran a venue at his house. He would do house shows all the time from bands from all over the state. His band was actively touring. But it really meant something to me when I decided to do my 100th show in Buffalo. He kind of put his hand on my shoulder, and I remember like a band was on stage. He whispered in my ear and he said, you really showed what's possible. You really set the bar. And that really meant something because having someone that was so instrumental in what I was doing to then, I guess, give me a little bit of, pat on the back
Hmm.
that I kind of, and that's why when eventually I sit down and get my book finished, uh, and like I said, I'll probably be bouncing around Nashville a little bit next year, so I'll probably see you, and maybe I'll even have some manuscript. And you're a writer, so
Yeah,
Gerard,
yeah.
so maybe I'll ask for some tips. uh, but I really, through my book, I'd like to, as I talked about earlier, which it's just, I feel that maybe some people don't realize they think that the world is just this online social media world. And they don't realize that maybe there is something between you sitting on the edge of your bed with an acoustic guitar and playing a stadium or something. Because you have these, someone just makes some beats in their room now, and then they're, at the Grammys tomorrow. And there's a lot of people out there. I know you talk to a lot of them. That's what kind of like your whole thing is, Gerard.
Mhm.
Just kind of giving people like a platform or a spotlight and helping artists grow and learn and be seen and heard. Because there's a lot of I feel gray area out there, and I know for myself, like sure is I could be sure. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know how to buy the right van. And I wish that I had someone tell me what type of vans to purchase, or I didn't know how to book shows, but I learned it myself, and that's kind of what I try to. I guess I try to teach anybody that I meet. I guess the whole thing, we're all human beings. We're all teachers in some regards, and we're all just trying to figure out this thing, especially as an independent artist, just figuring out what horse works and what horse don't.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is if we're all trying to figure that out, individually, imagine what we can do when we pull our resources, when we pull our knowledge, our experiences, everything that we've had a chance to accomplish, as well as things that didn't go well, the lessons from those things, right? Like it all
Exactly.
becomes this beautiful journey that each of us takes individually, and our roads all intertwine, and our roads have been intertwining for years. I mean, going back to the Lehigh Valley Underground days, pretty early in Lehigh Valley Underground, I believe, too. We crossed paths there at Spin Me Round over in Phillipsburg. And it's just been amazing to watch this trajectory and everything that you've had a chance to go out and do and experience to the point, where now you're writing a book, like you've
Yeah,
and so take
and it's
everything and
yeah.
impart it, to other people.
I was gonna say that no, it's cool you bring up the Lehigh Valley Underground thing because yeah, you were one of the first photographers, that took pictures. And it's again, I started from the as the far beginning as you can start. I started, I had been playing guitar for a number of years, but my brother could barely play AC/DC, and you, Gerard, were at some of my earliest live performances, and then here we are. You've been out in Nashville, and again, like I said, everybody's chasing some type of dream, and I feel that I'm also a firm believer that many a times if you start chasing the dream long enough, it's almost that old saying, if you fake it, you'll make it.
Hmm.
And one day you'll wake up and it's just your life. I guess like to tie it all together with that, with what we've been talking about, life is very much a road and it's paved with those people you meet, and it's that old saying, always be good to everyone you meet on the way up because you'll meet them on the way down. You never know, like what you never know when something will happen to anybody. You never know if it'll be a close friend of yours or yourself, and you should always try to be good to all the people that put you there, because it's a long road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's important to have those relationships. And it's always interesting too to see how they all come back around over years. I mean, I've been doing this show, you know, it'll be 12 years in August, right? And like there's still people from the very beginning of this show, like when we first started, that are still in the ecosystem, still submitting music to us. Like we had our 10th anniversary in 2023, and just see and hear all the messages that came through that we were able to roll into that 10-year anniversary episode. It's like you start to realize like the lives you've touched through what you've done, right? And you
Yeah.
start to realize it's bigger than you, and that's something that, we even teach artists all the time is like it has to be bigger than you, because how are you going to get people to care? If it doesn't connect with them, and there has to be that sense of connection, from a branding and a marketing standpoint, but also just from a human standpoint. It's art, and people
Yeah.
art that resonates with them. They connect to other humans that resonate with them. And you've done it, man. You've done it. So congratulations in order.
Yeah, no, I guess, yeah. Just a lot of times when I find myself in different situations where I guess I have a little bit of a reputation of being one of the hardest working guys in punk rock. And because like some of my friends, they'll always laugh like, how are you even here, man? Because I'll be like a stagehand or helping with production on a lot of different like festivals. I'm kind of I'm a staff member at the Camp Punksylvania Festival in northeastern PA currently, and I'm gonna be running their acoustic folk jam that they do after hours. Well, they're actually gonna put everybody in one spot, so we're not irritating campers trying to sleep their hangovers over, and no, I always try to. I'm an advocate for giving back. I think that it's you never know what's gonna happen in life.
Mhm.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. Well, the journey continues, and of course, continued at the Peaburg Legion for the 10th anniversary last year, and the live album, of course, coming out in January. So, Tell us a little bit about the live record, the experience of that night, how that translates into the recording we're going to hear, and how it's also indicative, perhaps, of the band's future plans.
So what's cool about the live record is it was really an amazing experience, an amazing night, so to kind of, I guess, tie all these pieces of ribbon into a bow, like with what we've been talking about. I had a band that was really just, we're just this little band from a town in northwestern New Jersey that most people drive through. It's the last exit on Route 78 West, and the biggest tourist attraction of where we're from in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, is the White Castle. There's not many White Castles in the Northeast, so if people make a pilgrimage to my little hometown, they go for White Castle. There's no museums or nothing. It's a little farm town, and I I wanted to set up a live music event, and I wanted it to be all ages, to have younger people, and also have, the capability of people to drink. So I set up a gig at a American Legion Hall, because there isn't a live, as I said, the greatest attraction is a White Castle. There isn't a premier rock and roll venue in Phillipsburg.
Although,
So,
do you remember those guys that tried to start Warhouse Collective back in like 2016, 2017?
oh,
And then they got
maybe,
shut down
yeah.
because, by the fire inspector. I was there
Yeah,
that
I think
night.
so. Right on South Main Street. I
Yeah.
think I remember that. I do. There's been some attempts. There were some hip hop dudes that were trying to set up, like some rappers. They're trying to set up this venue, but it really was even worse than playing a Legion. I played a gig. I think they called it like Planet Nine or something. But anyhow, going back though, there isn't a premier rock and roll venue in Phillipsburg, so I rented out the American Legion Hall. The lady that she was really sweet. Stopped by, signed some paperwork, and we got everything all set. Put down my deposit to make sure we didn't trash anything or run away with the money. And then, started promoting it, and made sure the poster was really colorful. Almost looked like the circus was in town, pulling on my circus roots.
Mhm.
And we told everybody we knew since, childhood, try to wrangle up everybody we possibly can, and we sold out the Legion Hall. The Legion Hall, I think, had like a 99 capacity, and I think we clocked it at like 150 people, not including the bands,
Wow.
as I had some other bands play with me. So we had all these people just crammed into this little American Legion Hall on Marshall Street in Phillipsburg, and it was insane. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I definitely learned that maybe for the 15th or 20th anniversary, I need something called a stage manager. So I was running all over the place. But to see so many friends, and I wish that the thing that I wish I could have talked to all the friends more. I was just making sure everybody was getting on stage, and we recorded the whole thing. So making sure that all the mics were working with, I had a good friend, his name's Walt, and Walt Cadmus, and he's been running alternative and punk shows, hardcore shows in the Lehigh Valley for a long time with a production company called True Blue Promotions. I think it's True Blue Promotions. And my buddy Walt, I had him running sound, and I'm just like, everything going cool, and I had like my friend Moose, he was getting the basic tracks, of everything. I'm like, Moose, everything getting good with the recording. And it was just really cool, I kind of, is that whole thing, like I said, like even like with the things I was talking about that are kind of the basis for the book I've been chipping away at. I didn't expect to talk so much about my book because it's not even near done, but I guess it's the whole thing with you, Gerard. It would make sense because that's common ground.
Yeah.
It's an artist helping artists, and I feel that I very much am a firm believer of you can make something happen if you believe it in your heart of hearts. It's that whole thing of manifestation. Like if you just put something into the universe and you really work towards it, like you can't just sit on the couch eating Cheetos and say, man, I really want to play a sold out show in my hometown. But, if you put something into the universe and you believe in it with your heart of hearts, and you do like basic, you know, just basic promotion and get the word out. I was sending out a lot of text messages, and just trying to track down people. It's like, I don't know if this number's good, man. I haven't seen you since 8th grade, but if you're still in town, and a lot of like everybody that came out, it was like a family reunion, and it was really special. And to have so many people sing along with us was an incredible experience. And the cool thing too about the live record, when you asked about like the future of the band, the neat thing is with us being so behind on, getting into the studio, there's those COVID setbacks, the pandemic setbacks. It was harder to get studio time. Everybody wanted to record at the same time. So sometimes you could only get a few days here and there. So we have a lot of unreleased material that people know from our live shows and love singing along. So this live record kind of previews our band's next two albums in many regards. There's some songs from the next two releases that we'll probably have out in the next couple years. And, it's just, I'm so glad we did it, because also for a long time, because I was just always just, I was the hamster on the wheel, just mad dashing, trying to have this band, trying to book more shows, trying to get out there, trying to see more cool places. A lot of times, if things didn't go smooth in the studio, you just shelve the project. So I felt that so many people would see the early releases that we had, our early EPs and stuff, and be like, man, it's nothing like your live show. I wish you guys like could capture that. And so the prayers have been answered. We heard you, and we had this amazing live record with the audience in it, and it really came together. It's really special. I had and the cover's really cool. We had this guy named Joey Souza, and Souza, he works for Adult Swim, and he's done a lot of like underground album covers. And I was just, again, manifested. I was like, there's no one I want to do the cover except Joey Souza. I'm going to make this happen. And like, I asked like a friend of a friend, because I had contacted him in the past, and I never heard anything, because he's probably a busy guy, making cartoons and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I got his cell phone number, and I pinned him down. I was like, it's going to happen. I did it. It was like in the beginning of the year. It was like in January or so of this year. And I was like, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to have this guy draw this insane artwork. And I don't think anybody could have captured it as well as him. It's really, I'm really proud. It was a lot of work, even like in post-production. Once you get all the music, you got to make it sound good.
Right.
So like being in and out of studios and making it sound as good as it could. And, having the album cover the way it is, like, just really proud of this live record.
Yeah. So where can people find it? Where can they get their hands on it?
So right now, when this is released, I would say we have a pre-order. When this podcast drops, there's a pre-order. Maybe even Gerard will put it in like the about. There's a pre-order for our vinyl. How many times can I say pre-order? For our vinyl, and it's officially going to be out. The record officially comes out on January 11th. We're doing a record release show in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, at the, what do they call it? The Sherman. That's it. It's the Sherman Theater's punk rock flea market. So they're doing a punk rock flea market at the Sherman Theater, and we're gonna release our record there. Because I thought, to kind of just another little tiny anecdote. When the band was starting out, we used to play the Sherman Theater open mics that they had. They have this little venue called the Showcase next door.
Yep.
And with us just being a garage band, we were like, we got to learn how to be a big boy band. So we need to know how to park the van. We need to know how to load in, load out, set up, play. So for months, maybe almost like a year, we were doing that. We were going to the Sherman Showcase open mic every Sunday to gear up to be a touring band back in the day. So I feel like everything comes full circle, even doing this interview with you, Gerard. We're going to be going back to the Sherman. We're going to be releasing our live record there. And it's just cool. And that'll be Saturday, January 11th is the record release show, Punk Rock Flea Market. And then supposedly, you probably know this more than me, Gerard, I guess you're supposed to release music on Fridays. That's what everybody says. So
Mhm.
I'm going to be not trying, I will be dropping the live record out on Friday, January 10th. And it'll be everywhere. You can listen to it on any platform you wish, which is the way the world works today. You could even probably use any of the songs as sounds on the TikToks or something like that.
The face tweets and
The
the
face tweets, man.
So make sure you pre-order the vinyl. Yeah, that'll be in the show notes. Make sure you pre-order it. Make sure you check it out live from the Peaburg Legion. Dropping on your DSPs on January 10th. And of course, go to the Sherman Theater for the Punk Rock Flea Market, January 11th, up in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. If you're in the area or can be in the area, definitely recommend you go check that out. Couple more questions, Houston. First of all, thank you again for joining. It was great, great, great catching up here on the show. First question I have is, well, let's do the easy one first. Where can people learn more about you online?
The easiest way to find me is so you can pretty much find my band on all platforms, all the social medias, and it's just Houston Dirty Rats. I cut out the and the just so it was nice and simple. Sometimes it's a headache, but you can find Houston Dirty Rats on everything. We're on the streaming services as Houston and the Dirty Rats. And then if you liked hearing me talk, I do a lot of live performances, acoustic performances on TikTok as Hobo Houston, and probably soon on YouTube, and trying to just master this internet thing. But you can find me as just Hobo Houston on a lot of the platforms if you just think I'm a pretty all right guy, and you'd like to, I try to answer all the comments or any messages that I get, and I'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this podcast and you're just starting out and starting a band, you have any questions, I'll try and give you best help I can. I'm just a guy trying to get by.
Absolutely. Next question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit for this one, but to close us out with some parting words of wisdom. If there is one lesson that you've learned over the course of this creative journey so far that you would go back and teach your younger self or somebody just starting out, what is the most important lesson you would say you've learned?
Uh, the most important lesson that's a good question. I would say it's it's almost very simple, but I think it really comes down to you need to have faith in yourself and faith in anyone that's willing to help you. I know not to go on like in very much like a religious way, but I think you really need to, if you believe in what you're doing, that resonates with people.
Hmm.
And if you are authentically doing it, you're not chasing something for Charles Bukowski has a poem where he talks about how there's a lot of people that chase the girls with the bluebells in their hair, you know. And if you're not chasing for that fame and fortune, and you're really trying to provide a service to the people, and you believe in yourself, and you believe in the people you're singing for, it's amazing how those people will help you. And I always like to say that I have survived at this point around the world just on the kindness of others. So, if you see some guy singing on the street and you start a conversation up with him and he seems like a pretty all right guy, I feel like that's the one thing, the best lesson I learned is having the faith in yourself and learning how to read people. Is I feel sometimes I can look someone in the eye and I know exactly where they're coming from. And I think that you need to trust others. I think in this day and age, we're so isolated that we lose faith in our humanity and one another many a times. It's easy to just go on a message board and see people saying horrible things from the safety of their home. But, you know, if you're face to face with someone, it's amazing the doors they'll open for you. So believe in yourself and believe in everyone you meet. That's what I would say I learned.
Amazing words from Hobo Houston, from Houston and the Dirty Rats, of course, live at the Peaburg Legion, coming out on your DSPs January 10th. Live release show January 11th at the Sherman Theater in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Houston, thanks so much for joining. We'll do this again. Can't wait to get the book in our hands in a year or two.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, Gerard.
All right, I'll be back to wrap it up. All right, there you have it. Hobo Houston of Houston and the Dirty Rats joining us here on the show. I want to thank Houston for taking the time out. Also, a couple months after this, we had a chance to track some acoustic cuts for his solo project right there at Helping Our Music Evolve as well. So don't quite know when those will be out, but just stay tuned because we had a chance to create some magic in the studio that day. Anyway, make sure you follow the Quinn Spinn on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on Instagram, at Quinn Spinn Official, 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You can also learn more about the show at Underground Music Collective. That is our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. New domain, by the way, umcworldwide.com. And of course, umcnashville.com will also take you there. Learn more and join our Underdogs community while you're at it. And also enroll in the UMC Academy if you want some brand coaching guidance from yours truly, the architect of the Underground Music Collective ecosystem. Roll 9's All I Become going to take us out like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on your way out.